What's up, Achievers? Today we're talking about the kettlebell clean. So by far the toughest kettlebell exercise that I've had to learn and also that I've had to teach to our members is the kettlebell clean. And so if you're learning cleans for the first time and it's banging up your wrists and it's coming down on you with a whole lot of impact and it just feels all weird, don't worry, it just takes a lot of time. It took me a good 6 to 12 months to actually master the movement. So the first two things that I want to talk about are the rack position as well as the single arm swing. So if you don't have those two components down, it's gonna be really tough to achieve a good clean. The big thing that we're looking at from a kettlebell rack standpoint is that we want that forearm to be vertical or near vertical, and we want the fist to be below your chin. As for the single arm swing, we're looking for the same details as we would in the two arm swing. So we want a good hip hinge as you're swinging the bell back, and at the top we want to see your body in a straight line with your arm directly extended out in front of you. So if you have those two variables set, you'll have the right foundation in order to perform a clean. So these are two mistakes that we see when people perform the kettlebell clean. The first mistake that we see when people perform the kettlebell swing is that they treat it too much like a one arm swing that happens to end up in the rack position. When you do that, you end up using too much force, it comes out way out in front of you, and then you have to reel it back in to get back to that rack position. And that translates to a lot of impact as well as potential bruising on the wrist. The second thing that we see are people death gripping the bell. So they really grip the bell tightly, and that really limits the amount of movement that the bell can have and makes for a really inefficient and clunky movement. So to counteract those two mistakes, I'll talk you through a 5-exercise progression that'll help you optimize and make your clean a lot more efficient. So exercise 1 is what we call the tall muscle clean. And in the tall muscle clean, what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab a bell. I would probably say a 6 or an 8 or a 10 kilogram kettlebell. You're gonna stand up tall with the kettlebell in your hand, and your palm is gonna be facing your body. And now from there, what you're gonna do is you're gonna slowly bring the bell back up towards the rack position and spear your hands through at the top. The big thing that we're looking at here is that you're not death gripping the bell, but you're allowing the bell to roll around your wrist by having your grip tight enough where it holds onto the bell, but not so tight that it really restricts the movement of it. Try that for about 3 or 4 reps per side and make sure that you can do it perfectly in a slow, controlled fashion. Step number 2 is what we call the low swing. In this, what you're gonna do is instead of doing a one-arm swing all the way up to chest height, we want you to bring the bell to about like your belly button or hip height. Same rules apply. You're still hinging really deeply, you're still using your hips and pushing into the floor and standing up tall and getting that bell to about belly button height. The reason why we don't want it any higher is because of mistake number 1 that I talked about before. We don't want to bring it all the way up to chest height and then have to reel it back. We would rather have it get to about your hip height, and then from there use your arms to direct that force vertically so that it lands safely and efficiently in that kettlebell rack position. One key mistake that we see when people perform low swing is that they might swing the bell low, but they start to underhinge. So they really reduce their hip hinge and it messes with their mechanics. So make sure when you pop the bell up into place right above your hips, and then from there really send the bell back with your arm, with your lats to send it back into that hip hinge posture. The third exercise is what we call the mid pull. So in the mid pull, what you're gonna do is you're gonna perform your low swing. So swing it up to about hip height, and then from there slowly glide your elbow back by your side. There's a common misconception that your elbow should be directly glued by your side as you perform the clean, but that really makes for a really clunky type of movement. That elbow should slightly glide back so that you can then redirect the force vertically into that kettlebell rack position. Now, even though it's called a mid-pull, what we really don't want to see is have you yank your elbow back, and that really throws off the timing and the efficiency of the movement. It should just be a very slight glide back before you actually spear your hand through. Step number 4 is going to be the top-down clean. So what you're going to do is you're going to get into your rack position, and then from there, what you're gonna do is you're gonna send the bell down, and as you send the bell down, I want you to push the bell back into that hip hinge posture, and then from there, place the bell back down. The biggest thing that we're looking for with the descent of the kettlebell clean is that we don't want it way out in front of you. If you bring it way out in front of you on the way down, you'll most likely bring it way back out in front of you on the way back up. So it really helps to think about having an imaginary wall right in front of you. And as you lower the bell down, your goal is to not hit that wall as you lower the kettlebell back down, because hopefully that'll then translate to you keeping that bell in close on the way back up. Doing this from a top-down perspective really helps to break things down into more of a digestible and a more accessible chunk so that you can then really master how to descend with the bell. The 5th drill in this progression is to actually go from a top-down position, you're gonna bring it back down into your hip hinge, and then you're gonna actually re-clean it. Now, all the same rules apply as before. We still wanna maintain a really good hip hinge. We still wanna keep that bell in really nice and close. And our big suggestion here is as you clean it, once you're in that rack position, hold it there for a second or two. Don't rush into the next clean. You really want to own that rack position after each clean. And then the final step to all this is to actually place the bell on the ground, and then from there perform a full kettlebell clean into that rack position. So to sum things up, we don't want that bell way out in front of you as you bring the kettlebell into the rack position. We also don't want you to death grip the bell because that makes for a really clunky and inefficient movement. We want you to use just enough force so that the bell comes up to about hip height or belly button height, and then from there redirect that force vertically into the rack position by having a really loose and relaxed grip, but still tight enough where you can still grab onto the bell. Having a good kettlebell clean will set the foundation for having a really strong press as well as a good strong squat position as well. So really take your time with this, be patient. If you're having difficulty with one of these progressions, don't just jump right to the next progression. So if you're having trouble with the low swing, don't jump to the mid pull because the mid pull is built upon a foundation of a strong low swing. Mastering the kettlebell clean will take you a long time, but hopefully these 5 steps will help get you there faster. So until next time, peace, love, and muscles.